Have you ever bought something you did not need or blurt something out before you have a chance to think about it? How about starting a project at 2 a.m.? If you have ADHD, I bet you know exactly what I'm talking about. Impulsivity can leave us broke and feeling broken, but there are positives to this ADHD trait. In this video, I'm going to break down the pros and the cons of impulsivity. And if you stick to the end, I might just give you some tips and tricks to pause before the impulse. Just kidding, I definitely will. So let's get started. Impulse control is the ability to stop yourself before you take action. It's that pause in between thinking and doing. For ADHDers, not being able to pause shows up in every area of their life. From finances to relationships, career choices to even our emotions. But a lack of impulse control isn't specific to ADHDers. Anyone can be impulsive at times. But for ADHDers, it's a near constant experience. That pause before action is practically non-existent, and that can cause us a lot of struggle and pain. Honestly, part of me wants to just skip the cons list because we live it. But in case you haven't connected all the dots in your life or ADHD, here they are. Starting out with a relatively small stakes example is interrupting during conversations or blurting things out when you don't mean to. Either way, this can be really frustrating for a person talking to an ADHDer. It's seen as rude if we interrupt someone while they're talking. But all we experience is a desperate need to get those words out, because chances are we're not going to remember them when it's our turn to talk. And we can blurt things out at the most inappropriate times, like when our boss is giving us a performance review. Your loved ones say that you never listen to them. You tell your life story to the barista you just met. Often, these instances of impulsivity result in nothing more than some embarrassment. But other times, they can cost you your relationship or even your job, which you need because impulse spending is a real problem for ADHDers. Grocery stores line the cash registers with candy and chocolate because impulse buying is so easy to do. But ADHDers are not known for taking small swings, so it can cost us more than just a few dollars. We can impulsively buy brand new cars or max out our credit cards on online shopping. This is made even more difficult because ADHDers aren't just impulsive with their spending, we hobby hop too. So we end up spending hundreds of dollars on supplies for a hobby that we get over the very next week. Write in the comments what you've bought and forgot. I'd love to hear your stories. We all do this. We might as well start laughing about it, right? Especially when we compare it to the next con, addiction. Our brains need dopamine to simply function. Drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, all of these things give you a dopamine boost. Sure, you can make better choices, but you need the dopamine for the executive function to make those better choices. Unfortunately, it is still more complicated than simply low dopamine. It's an issue with communication in the brain. I'd love to be able to explain it to you, but I don't understand it myself. It involves things like the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia, and I have no idea what those things really do. All of these different parts of our brain need to communicate and work together to allow us to think first and act second. One thing is certain, however, it is not a character flaw. You don't simply lack discipline, you're not a bad person, and it's not your fault. And despite the gravity of these cons, there are benefits to impulsivity, and you've probably overlooked them. At the top of this list is creativity. We act before we think, so if we can just get started, we're better at not overthinking it until afterwards. This approach can result in all sorts of art, ideas, and innovations. Impulsivity at its core is about instant reward. And when used in creativity, that usually results in something new and deeply satisfying. Planners don't get these results because rules often limit our imagination and result in the same old thing that we've seen many times before. Impulsivity also makes ADHDers more fun. We're spontaneous and adventure seeking. And yes, that can lead to misadventures, but it also pretty much guarantees that we're going to live a life full of interesting stories. I impulsively moved to Montreal to be with my now husband 13 years ago. If I had been the planning sort of person, I would have planned myself out of that decision. This extraordinary life that I'm living is built on impulsivity. Was it risky? Yes, but high risk can lead to high reward. Going back to school after you've been in your current career for years is risky. Starting a business is risky. Having a baby with a man that you just started dating is risky. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do them. And that requires a certain level of impulsivity that not everybody is capable of. In fact, those sorts of decisions can paralyze a lot of people. The human brain is designed for our survival, not our happiness. It's trying to keep you safe, but safety doesn't teach you how to be strong or resourceful. And it also explains why so many ADHDers thrive in high pressure situations. We are quick thinking and great in a crisis. And that's because of our impulsivity, not despite it. The trick is to learn when and how to pause so your impulsivity can have minimal damage and maximum benefits. So here are some tips and tricks. Tip number 1 is pause buttons. I know that telling somebody with impulse control issues to simply pause before they act sounds ridiculous. If we could do that, we wouldn't be impulsive. But there are tools that we can use to help us get better at that. Things like breathwork and timers can really help you gain control. But breathwork requires practice. You can't simply tell yourself to breathe before you act and expect yourself to be able to do so. Practicing breathwork when you're not triggered can help you implement it almost without thinking about it when you are triggered. And timers are great for when you have the impulse to buy something online or binge eat. The idea is that you have the urge and then you set a timer for 5-10 minutes. It can take some getting used to, but it can be very helpful to externalize the pause because in these situations, it's not so much that you're doing it without pausing. It's more like you're thinking about it and then deciding almost immediately to just do it anyway. If you create some distance between the time you have the thought and you do the action, then you're going to create a little bit of time for you to rethink that decision. Tip number 2 is to make better decisions when you're not in that impulsive state. Choose hobbies and careers that require a quick reaction time. Things like nursing or even like kickboxing. If you have an impulsive nature and you spend your day simply pushing papers, you're going to need to let out that impulsivity after work. And you're not necessarily going to make the best decisions on how you do that. But if you spend your days doing things that require impulsivity, then it's almost like it satiates that side of you. So you don't feel this overwhelming need to be impulsive in other areas of your life. Tip number 3 is celebrate your wins. You are creative, bold, adventurous. These are not bad things. And the more that you embrace these parts of yourself, the happier you're going to be. And that is going to produce more dopamine, so you have better executive function and therefore more impulse control. Accepting yourself as you are is the best way to get ahead of these ADHD traits. It's not a matter of accepting yourself and saying, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. It's about saying, this is who I am, that's okay, but let's get into problem solving mode so we can find solutions for these things that work for us. If you do that, every part of your life will be worth celebrating. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more pros and cons videos on ADHD traits, and I'll see you next week. Bye.